All right, what's going on, everyone? This is Brian from We Don't Know Yet, a podcast where we learn something new every single day. And we're just still contemplating on 1,000 different things. But today we're going to be talking about sobriety and about preparedness. And this is sometimes a non-conventional topic, especially around young people. We tend to consume crazy amounts of whether it's alcohol, and now that cannabis is pretty extensive around the country. Like everybody just kind of partakes. But today we're just going to be talking about what are ways that we're using sobriety to just help us be more prepared, more effective, and just get things done. Before any of that, Nsima, how's everything going? How are you doing?
Things good, man. Things have opened up in terms of, jujitsu, gyms. So stuff with me in terms of what I do as far as coaching people is getting a little bit more open. My clients are getting more gym access. Yeah,
Nice.
life is going back to normal. It's funny, honestly, like Gavin Newsom saying that masks are required, right?
Hmm.
Everywhere outdoors here in Sacramento, yet I go to the store. I'm not wearing a mask, by the way. I'm not wearing one, but almost like there are people wearing masks, but there are people just walking around like myself that just aren't wearing masks, and it's
Yeah, I
just
think
funny.
at this point, folks are just gonna they're just going to take no precaution, just kind of move forward as they can. I read an article too. It's like as certain states are getting more and more cases and seeing spikes in cases, it's hard to move people back into quarantine. Like people
Nope.
aren't going back. So they're like fed up. They're like, look, if I get it, I get it. That's kind of the mindset a lot of folks are in.
Yeah, you can't. There's no way in hell that you're going to put people back into their homes for months because of this thing. You
Yeah.
know,
So
it is what it is.
it's gonna be a hard few months, and yeah, we just take it a day at a time, see what's gonna happen. On my end, dude, it's just you already know I was unemployed for a while, and now it's like going back into work, and thankfully now I'm blessed to be in a consulting phase now, trying to just figure out this whole process and new kind of sphere that I'm in.
Hmm.
But like work is moving. Like there's certain aspects of certain industries are still kind of stagnant, still kind of paused, but like as far as like communities and like dialogue and like designing around built environment, like that's moving super duper fast. So happy to kind of be back active. But you and I were talking about this briefly, but not really at length. So I'm actually excited to see like what we can like drum up here, where we're talking about sobriety. And before we even jump into it, like, what is your relationship with, let's just say, just with alcohol? Like, how often do you drink? Like, how does that partake in your daily routine?
Um, yeah, I'm more so actually going to be curious about your stories because you have some interesting college experiences with alcohol.
I have.
But as far as alcohol is uh, as far as alcohol in my life, I've never in my life been a heavy drinker. Even
Mhm.
when I was back in college and having some fun with it, as in having fun at parties and stuff like that, I was never someone who would. There was one time where I blacked out, but I blacked out because somebody spiked my drink. Like my drink was spiked, and I woke up in the emergency room the next day. That was on my 22nd birthday or something, right?
22nd. You didn't drink before 21, huh?
20. I think it was 20. It was my 21st. I think actually it
Or
was my 21st
21st?
birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my 21st.
Remember you told me
Somebody
about that.
spiked my drink. And then I ended up in the ER, or yeah, in the emergency room the next morning. But
Do you know what
as
they
far
spiked it with?
they just put hella stuff in it. I don't know what they did in it, but all I
Tragic.
remember was like they said that when I was blacked out, I was doing presentations on a whiteboard and just doing a lot of stuff. It was
Shout out to
crazy.
your health.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. But from there, no, like I was never a super heavy drinker. I'd drink, but I'd never get to a place where I didn't remember what happened the night before or I had a problem. But I would say in recent years, like there were certain points where like maybe, there would be points where like I would want like a bottle of beer almost every single night. I just want one glass of beer
Hmm.
and I'd be like, I don't want to build that habit, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
And it was
and
just like when
I've
you're
never
winding
liked.
down or something at the end of the day.
Yeah. You know, just one bottle, and that's not necessarily super unhealthy, but I just never wanted to build that habit, and I just think that I don't like not being in control of my actions. I don't like, you
Mm,
know, I don't like not being in control of my actions or the things that I do. And, you know, also like people know that when you drink heavily, your next day can be messed up. I know the
yeah,
scientific things of what happens and like how it affects your body for the few days afterwards if you drink a lot. So I don't even want that to happen to me because I care about not just being a high performer, you know, in terms of work, but also athletically. It's going to
yeah,
mess me up for days on end. So there's just no way that I could allow myself to drink heavily multiple days at a time. I just think that's something that'll just have anybody moving backwards in life.
yeah. No, that's a really interesting thing because I think for folks listening, they can see your story, and I think uh it's a story that most 20 something year olds won't say, right? Because we've talked about this for years, and you've been kind of like doing your own thing for a while. That's kind of been contrary to how like folks our age would typically move through life. And I
Mm-hmm.
think maybe I have spent, shoot, my 20s like getting to Cal Poly. I was 16, and I had my first drink. I think I was 17,
Mm-hmm.
right? 17 years old, and definitely should not have been doing that. But 17 years old, and then I was in college and then grad school. But for me, it was always kind of like what you just mentioned, trying to unwind. Like, oh, I just had a hard day. Now I'm 21. Now I'm gonna go buy like a 6 pack. We'll just hang out with some friends. We'll have a drink.
Right.
Nothing big. Or we'll go to a party. It's more of a like a, what do they call it? A social lubricant. And I'm just trying to be social. I'm just trying to like have a drink, nothing too crazy. But there were instances where we drank too much. And like you said, the next day, it's like, dude, I can't get out of bed, can't really study, can't work out. And that was kind of my routine for years until coming back to my hometown when I was 24 and kind of cutting some of those different habits that I've built up over the past few years. So now it's like, I don't know, I might have a glass of wine every couple weeks, but it's
Mm-hmm.
very rare. It's like for me, um, it's not really something I really I look for, because it's not something that like I really like feel like I need on a day-to-day basis. But it's weird to see like from one end of the extreme, super extreme on like drinking a lot, hanging out with friends, you live in that college life, and then on the other side, it's like we're still in our 20s, but it's not desirable anymore, because it doesn't seem like
Yeah.
it's getting any of the fruit. Like the social stuff, you could be social, you have like a ginger beer, you could have just a glass of water, a lemonade. You can go and just, it forces you to just talk to people, work on those kind of like communication skills and in small talk. I'm not really big at small talk, so I'm trying to work at that. So like, if
Mm-hmm.
you can't escape into it, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about escapism in a few, but
But that's a big thing right there, dude. I mean, I know you said we're going to talk more about it, but I mean, that's one of the big reasons that people do drink heavily, because when you are under the influence and you're under the influence of like after drinking quite a bit, you really don't care about what's going on around you,
mhm,
right? It's like your responsibilities are kind of washed away. You're not thinking about the things that you got to do, the tasks that you got to get done, the responsibilities that you have to take care of. It
mhm,
is a form of, let me just not think anymore. Let me not have to deal with my issues and my problems. Let me just drink it away. And then it turns into not just something you do every now and then, it turns into a straight up alcohol addiction. You
mhm,
know, you can't spend a day without having a drink or two. Like even nowadays, like I'll have a glass of wine every few nights, you know, with
mhm,
like Sierra and I, but like I don't get drunk. You know what I
mhm.
mean? We just like wine.
Yeah,
But heavy drinking is something that I just, there's no way I can get into that.
right. I'm gonna throw out a few facts real quick, just so that we can like qualify it with some like figures. All right, so there's and I didn't even know this. There's like a dietary guidelines advisory committee under the USDA, and the Department of Health and Human Services.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially every year they put out these guidelines or recommendations on like how American individuals should be changing or considering new things in their diets. And this year they're talking about recommending limiting alcohol and added sugars, saying that men specifically, but this also applies to women, should cut back their alcohol intake to 1 drink per day rather than 2. And it's kind of similar to what we're talking about right now. It's saying that even 2 drinks is like associated with like a modest but very meaningful increase in death rates for all type of cases or causes. Um, so it's like even for folks that are like, look, I don't have an alcohol addiction, but I like to drink at least 1 drink a night. Like there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not drunk. I'm not falling over.
Mm-hmm.
Helps me wind down, or I'm having maybe a happy hour with colleagues. Like there's really no reason not to, but there's like certain associations or correlations with our health that can have long-term impacts. Um, and like you said, as far as like escapism, it's like um, J. Cole always says something. He says to meditate over medicate, and medication can take the form of a lot of things. It could be alcohol, it could be weed, it could be pills, it could be whatever. It could be relationships. Um, but oftentimes people don't take the time to like really look at themselves, be sober, trying to work on communication or try to be in the present without having to use some sort of substance to get them into that place. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the harmful like paradigm of thought we all fall into. Is like, I need that drink to help me wind down, or I need to sleep, and having that glass of wine is going to help me sleep. It's like, why not just shift your habits? We've already talked about sleep a lot on this show, so you guys can go back to some of our previous shows. What are some of the things I can do that would alleviate me having that drink that could help me sleep better? So it's just like doing that legwork that a lot of folks don't want to do.
And you know, you mentioned changing your habits, but I think one big thing that is a very difficult thing to do is look at your circle. Look at the
Mm-hmm.
circle of people around you. There's a reason why my circle is limited to the people that it is. It's because not only are those people very, very high performing individuals that have the same type of habits that I do, that are looking at life in the same progressive way that I do, but
Mm-hmm.
they also are not heavy partiers or heavy drinkers. You know, it's a difficult thing when all of your friends, and I experienced this in college since I was a college athlete. All of my friends love to party. They didn't do a lot. Like they
Yeah.
love to party, and that was like, those were my homies. But I had to move forward, I had to separate myself from them, because every single weekend, multiple nights of the week, it's like, hey, come on down here. We're doing this. Come on down here. We're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my friends. I would do that with them because I didn't have anyone else to do anything else with. I
Right.
had to literally just be like, nah, I'm cool, and slowly take myself out of the situations with them. Slowly, we weren't as close, just because I knew that these people aren't doing much.
Yeah, sure.
They're not doing much outside of this, and I don't want to be living like this. It's not the way I want to live, right? So I had to separate myself away from those people, and it took me a while until I found other individuals that kind of I vibed with in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very difficult thing when some of the closest people to you have the habit of partying all the time or drinking all the time, and to fit in, that's what you need to do too, or else
Mm-hmm.
now you're the outlier. You're the one who everyone's asking, hey, why aren't you drinking? You're the one who everyone's asking, hey, why aren't you coming out with us here, here, here? Because you're trying to get out of doing stupid stuff.
Exactly. Dude, because that reminds me of a story. I had one friend in particular. This is my line brother. Shout out to Taylor. And
Mm.
if anyone knows Taylor and if anyone knows Reggie, I'm sure the Reeds will listen to this show later. If anyone knows them, they know that these guys never drink. Never. Like that's not their forte. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing was, and going back to your point, is that regardless of wherever Taylor and I were, whether it was in Amsterdam or Paris or Pittsburgh, what have you, we would always have a blast and not a drop of alcohol was needed. But in
Mm-hmm.
all of my other circles, like we drank, but it was like kind of like um the drinking was synonymous with us hanging out. Like you can't hang out if we're not drinking. Like it had to go uh in parallel. So
Yeah.
but when you have friends like Taylor, you have friends like Reggie, it just becomes a new normal. And I guess this is the new like term we're using nowadays, but it was always very easy to just like let's just go on this hike or let's go check out this city, and we didn't need to like have those substances around just because it wasn't needed, it wasn't necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But in this moment, like being in COVID, being just, still in the midst of um just a lot of presses, a lot of like pressure placed on systems to change, especially when we're talking about systemic racism. It's like, as the head of my household, I think I need to be prepared. And like when I drink, I know I won't be prepared. Right. So I was
Prepared for
thinking about
what?
this. So let me give you an example. Let's say I lock up my house for the day. We're going to bed, and someone breaks in, someone breaks my window. If I had had maybe a drink or two before sleep, nothing wrong with that, right? I would have went to bed, but I wake up, I'm a little drowsy, I'm a little groggy, I'm not as responsive, but there's an immediate danger in my home. Like that is on me to like be able to like challenge that. But if I'm not at my best, like that also puts myself and everybody around me in danger. You get what I'm saying? So the way that I'm trying to like rationalize it is that if I'm sober, I'm much more prepared to deal with my environment, my external
Mm-hmm.
environment. And a lot of people would say, look, I can perform very well when I've had a couple of drinks. Like I do this all the time. This is how I operate. Or I can have a little bit of weed. It's not a big deal. I can work under these pretenses. But it's like you're always going to be more effective to deal with challenges when you're sober. Like that's just something that I think is very objective, like truth. But what would you say to that?
Um, I'd say it's a little bit of a stretch,
How
and let
so?
me tell you why. Because uh, if someone just chooses not to drink at all, I have absolutely no problem with that. There have been times where I just didn't ever drink, and there's no issue with that. But it wasn't because if somebody breaks into my home, I'm not going to be ready to defend the house. It
Hmm.
wasn't because of that. It's just because I didn't feel like it. I think that like, you know, it's worse to get 4 or 5 hours of sleep at night than drinking a glass of wine. It literally, it actually is more, and you are more impaired on 4 hours of sleep. You just don't perform as well than getting a full night's sleep and a glass of wine. I think that that wouldn't be personally my reason for not having a glass
Oh,
of
for sure,
wine.
not the reason, but
And I also don't think it like, if for example, because like for myself and my lady, we both like to enjoy a glass of wine. We like going wine tasting. It's a fun hobby. um we're not getting to a point where we're blacking out or anything like that, but I also wouldn't put off that enjoyment for that because of a potential that someone may break into the house and I'm not going to be 100% ready. At that point, it's just like, why even leave the house? Because someone could break into the house when I'm gone. It's like, I mean, that wouldn't necessarily be the thing that puts me over the edge to never drink again. But I understand the idea of always being ready. I get that. I can understand that. It just
mhm.
wouldn't be my reasoning. I'm still like, when it comes to almost everything, I'm the type of person who I don't like to overdo it. Moderation, especially when it comes to drinking, when it comes to other things, it's just like, have moderation with it. Don't take it into excess. Don't take it to a place where it ends up being negative, or it ends up impacting yourself, your habits, the goals that you have negatively. If it does that, if alcohol does that for you, you have a problem. If it's really not affecting you and the things that you want to do and where you're trying to head in life, you can do it without it affecting your health negatively. I personally don't think, I think it's okay.
I can understand that. I say maybe my point was not so much that you wouldn't drink because of, like you said, um this, like you said, reality or not reality of someone breaking into your house, like whether that be true or not, that should impact your present actions. I think it's more so, like you said, being ready, but then also knowing like yourself well enough. So I know myself in that even a drink or two, I'm not, could be because I don't really drink that often.
Hmm.
I'm already impaired to the point that I can't respond in an appropriate manner. Or
Hmm.
I got to just go lay down and chill because I'm like, not that I'm drunk or tipsy, but I'm just like, dude, I'm not in the mood. I'm chilling. Like I'm gonna be hanging out. So the thing that I want to get across, and maybe it's for myself and for whoever else falls in that boat, is that know yourself enough. Know yourself, like you said, know moderation and know um, that you just need to be mindful of what's going on around you.
Hmm.
And I think that a lot of times we don't have conversations like this as young folks. It's always like older folks telling us, "Oh, you shouldn't drink." Or obviously now that we're in a realm in which Uber, Lyfts, and what have you are more ubiquitous. You don't really see or hear too much of the drinking and driving happening because you can just call it Uber, $6, you're back home.
I still know
Um,
people who do that too much, bro. I still
People
know
still do
people who,
that.
yeah, no, and it pisses me off. It
Which
really
doesn't
makes
make
me angry,
sense.
but
Which doesn't
people
make
still
sense.
do it.
'Cause that's like a choice that really doesn't even need to happen. But that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, just being mindful and knowing what exactly that you need to be doing, even when you're engaging or like consuming a drink or two. Um,
Well, let me ask you this, because
go
you have stories from college, and when it comes to alcohol, like for you, it was it's a I feel like it's a deeper decision than just not drinking, right? Like you just like haven't had good experiences with it in the past.
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I mean, I've had the same kind of experience as anyone else
Yeah.
that's been, you know, in an undergraduate experience or, been in a graduate school experience. Like
Hmm.
everybody has a drink, everybody, and you see the extremes of that too. I've seen
Yeah,
folks
yeah,
who,
yeah.
drink every day, hardcore. Some of them continue today, some of them just can't because now they got kids and now they got other responsibilities.
Hmm.
But for me it was still operating the way I do now, but it was me trying to conform to the environment that I was in. And like you said before, if everyone's drinking, I'm going to drink too. We made sure that was readily accessible.
Yeah.
But nothing like crazy happened. It was just more so um I just didn't like the way I felt. I didn't like the way I felt. I didn't like the things I would say when, I was inebriated. The way I would act is just like, dude, even if I've only had one or two drinks, I would say things that weren't that I wouldn't say if it was like noon on a Tuesday, right? And if
Yeah.
those two people are different, then I shouldn't be engaging in that. So I think and you were with me, and we had an experience, and when I saw, like those experiences when you see yourself and how you're acting, you're just like, all right, you're just acting like a buffoon.
Hmm.
That experience just like made sure that I just never drank that often because I just didn't
Yeah.
want to become that guy.
What was the experience?
Do you remember when I had an edible
I remember. I
and
remember.
I
I remember.
was losing my mind?
I remember.
All right, so once we're
I
on the call,
remember.
Nsima had to literally sit by my bedside for about an hour and a half to make sure I went to sleep because I was tripping balls.
Remember that? I forgot.
And while in that experience, I had this out of body experience watching myself in bed, acting a fool, and Nsima with this worried, panicked look on his face. And I was just like, dude, you're an absolute idiot. And it was 9 o'clock on like a Sunday night. I was like, dude, you're dumb. After that, I never smoked or
Oh
had
man.
any edibles. But the same thing kind of like applies to alcohol for me now.
I feel that, dude. No, I remember that. Yeah, I think one good thing, you know, if you enjoy going out with people or partying or whatever, just remember that it may feel like you might need to do the same thing to loosen up with everybody else, but realize that as everybody else is getting wasted and getting drunk, they're not thinking about you, right? So you can legit just act like a fool and be sober, right? And no one's going to think of it, and no one's going to even realize anything because they're all acting stupid too, right? So that's just
Right.
something to remember. Like, you legit don't have to get wasted and drunk um to hang out with those people if you do choose to.
Right.
No, that's just something to keep in mind. But let me ask this: how about when it comes to things like weed or anything like that? How do you feel about that? Because I remember you had like you there's a time where you're like a Rasta guy.
My
You're
beard
all
was
into that.
long,
Uh-huh.
my hair was long, yeah, and I just relaxed. I was very
It seems
relaxed.
very adventurous for a
Uh, yeah, very adventurous. I mean, like, I haven't, yeah, I haven't engaged with that either in a number of years.
Mhm.
And the same stance I take on alcohol, I take on weed now as well. Um, 'Cause I just don't feel like it's necessary because a lot of times you engage with it because it calms you down. It helps you to relax. It helps you to, you know, fill in the blank.
Mhm.
But I just came to a point, came to a decision where, maybe in college this was something that was like very prevalent, and this is something we did to engage with one another. We're having like little events or little meetups, or we're having a barbecue, and it's cool. But as we got older, it's just like, do I need to add that layer for us to engage?
Yeah.
And it came to a head where I compared maybe our convenings we'd have in grad school versus the convenings I had when I was more in my young adult life in my first position.
Mhm.
And when I was in grad school, we'd have, libations, we'd have drinks, we'd have,
You
whatever that
say
people would
libations.
engage with.
Did you,
Libations,
did you
yes.
say libations?
Yeah, libations. I'm a grown man.
You're all into
So
the absolute
we would
most.
we would engage, and it would be cool, but it would have that kind of festive mentality, that festive kind of environment that people didn't really connect. It was
You
hard to
just said libations, bro.
can I finish
I'm
my
sorry,
story?
I cannot get over the fact that you
You
were like,
never
we know we be over here, we be having
libations,
libations.
we
Like,
enjoying ourselves, we're having some
bro,
foods and
oh
drink.
my
It's a
God.
party.
Calm down.
I'm just
Call it
trying I'm just
a
trying to school
drink.
you, young man.
We
I'm
have
just trying
libations.
to show you some new vernacular. Okay. I'm trying to broaden your vocabulary. But nowadays, like when you would come over, I don't know if you remember when we were
Oh
this was
God.
pre-COVID. Do you remember we had like a game night or something? I don't remember. But we
Yeah,
had a game night, and you and Sierra came over, all these other homies came over, and we just talked for like 5 hours. We played games and we ate food and we watched, what did we watch? Parasite.
yeah. Hmm.
Like it was a very deeply engaging night. You know what I'm saying? And we left feeling like we knew each and every one of those people a little bit better. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Hmm.
Every person I felt like, and I don't want to speak for you, but everybody felt like, all right, I talked to this person a little bit, this person a little bit, and I got a little bit from them, and I'm dipping. When we would be drinking and smoking, like you can have these really deep high talks. I think people say that a lot too, but
Yeah.
I'll wake up in the morning and I don't remember what we talked about, to be
Mhm.
honest. So
No, I
that's
totally agree with you.
that's my story, man.
It,
Um,
it literally is a crutch for social interaction. But along with it being a crutch, making social interaction easier, it goes exactly to what you said. It also loosens the depth of that social interaction because
mm,
you're not really paying attention to what the other person's really saying. You know,
mhm.
you're not really paying attention to what they're how they're trying to connect. There's really no connection happening other than fun.
Yeah. Can I add another vocabulary word for you when
Yeah,
we're
go
talking about
for it.
connection? That reminds me, you talk about deep connections, is also like thinking about viscous connections. And viscous or viscousness is like the thickness, right? Or
Yeah, I
the
know what
amount of
that is.
substance that's within. Uh, I just want, I didn't know.
I get it. No, no,
I
no.
didn't
I
know.
get it.
I just wanted to add that because
No, it's
I like substantial like relationships.
yeah.
I don't know if anybody else is about that life.
I get what you're saying. I've never heard somebody use the word viscous as
Never.
far as when it comes to relationships. I've heard them use it as far as like drinks
A
and
viscous
thickness.
drink?
Yeah, because like liquid, like
Yeah.
a cough syrup is very viscous. I've
Right.
heard that, but I, you see, you, I'm gonna start calling you Michael Eric Dyson.
Don't call me that
No, no.
guy.
I'm gonna start
Don't call
calling
me
you
that
Michael
guy.
Eric Dyson because Michael
Because
Eric Dyson's the type of guy to use big words for the sake of using big words, and he's explained why he does it. I
but
still think,
I don't use big words for the sake of using big words.
bro. Sometimes you
I
do.
just use the
Sometimes,
word that like means what I'm trying to get across. That's the reason for words. I just like, all right, this is what this means, and I want to say a sentence, so let me use that word.
you can do that. You can do that.
All right. So I think that if you guys even made it this long, if you made it this far, I'm gonna say something. Men, if you're listening, for any men that's listening, be mindful of how much you allow alcohol into your daily routines.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think that we're not saying it's wrong to enjoy a glass of wine, a glass of beer every so often, but be mindful of where you are, how you present yourself as you're consuming these substances, and like um, be self-aware of like how you are before, how you are after. Is it actually being a crutch? I think only you can understand whether you're needing it to like engage with someone, or when you need it to sleep or to unwind after a long day. um and just be super aware of like how you can maybe shift it to be um at times a more minuscule or a reduced portion of your day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that, and this is for me, you could live a happier, healthier lifestyle when you can reduce the amount of your alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
And be more prepared. Be more prepared, not just for that one guy that is going to break into your house, but be more prepared for that meeting you have at 9 a.m. or be prepared for a good night's rest, because
Mm-hmm.
you know everybody has like an unwind period, so you can get a good night rest. That list goes on. You can be prepared to make a more like conducive um, lifestyle when you aren't using these substances as much.
Yeah. It does affect your sleep negatively. You drink too much, it will affect your day the next day. If you find that alcohol is actually just affecting you in that way, you need to tone it back. And like you mentioned, you just need to be. I think it's necessary to be extremely self-aware, extremely self-aware of when it might be getting out of hand. Like there was, like I said, a time where I was noticing like I was really wanting to have just like one bottle every single night just to wind down or just to chill. I was like, I don't want to have to, I don't want to crave
Right.
at night, and I don't want it to be I don't want it to be something that I have to have. I want it to be something that I want to have just because I want to have it. It has no other effect than that. So I knew I had to cut back on that or do something else.
Yeah.
So it affect me that way because, that's something that really can become an addiction. Alcoholism is a real thing.
It really is.
It's a real thing. So we have to be careful about that. Not just men, but women too. So I know some women who take it to the next level, and it's not good. It is not good. So
Yeah.
got to be careful.
One thing real quick that I have to ask you, when you do have, or when you did have like that, you know, bottle of beer or whatever to unwind, what kind of activities would you do after? Were you doing like these very high productive, like you're reading and doing like etc things like chopping videos up, or were you like watching TV, eating, just lounging? Like what kind of activities? Was it productive activities or non-productive activities that you do?
Sometimes it'd be something like editing a video, or because I don't like to work too much at night as it is.
Hmm.
I don't like to do a lot of hard stuff at night. That's usually when I do like to wind down and do something relaxing because I've done a lot of work during the day. But I mean, sometimes I'd be doing some reading or doing some video editing. But the thing is, again, it's like one bottle of beer won't affect that much. It's
Hmm.
when you end up wanting to down a six pack.
Hmm.
I've never been there, but it's like people, because I've had clients who are like, yeah, I drink like 3 beers a night. I'm just like, ooh, okay, yeah, we gotta analyze that. We gotta back off of that. You know what I
Right.
mean? Why do you ask?
Just because for me, I tend to do more of the non-productive activities. So if
Of
I'm gonna
course.
have a drink, like you said, I'm in a relaxing mind state. I'm really not trying to do any work. I'm
Mhm.
gonna watch TV over reading a book. I'm going to play video games over, I don't know, cleaning and organizing my room.
Yeah.
So for me, I know that if I want to have and I want to like glean as much productivity out of every day, that having that one drink might mess that up. And I think that's what I really try to hold at a high, is making sure I get as much done every day as I can. Um, because yeah, like yesterday, I mean, I had a glass of wine yesterday and or maybe a couple of days ago. And what was I doing? I was looking over like an RFP. I wanted to make sure that the request for proposals that we were considering, making sure it made sense. Was I like inebriated and I couldn't understand what I was doing? No.
Hmm.
But was it necessary for me to do that given what activity I was trying to get done? No.
Yeah.
So I can already start being aware of what I want to do next when that time arises.
Hmm.
So yeah, anything else you want to add before we close out?
No, no. There's hopefully we can talk about. There's something that I don't know if you heard about. The voice actor, this white woman, or she's maybe mixed, from the show Big Mouth.
Mm-mm.
She was voicing a black character, and she recently, because of all the stuff that's been going on, she's like, I have to. I should quit. I don't feel right doing this anymore. I cannot voice a black character. We should find a black person who can help like maybe be better with this character's experience, whatever. And I'm just looking at that. I'm just like, no. But I feel like we can have a good discussion about that. So on another day,
Another day.
another day.
All right. Same time, same place. All right, y'all. Much love to you. Check out our socials and make sure you leave a review and stay well. Talk to y'all soon.